Austrian citizenship and an Austrian passport for descendants of Austrian Jewish residents that lived in Austria before January 1933 and after January 1933. We're dealing today with eligibility for all the descendants of those Austrian residents that lived in Austria in the relevant years. We're dealing basically with two categories. The first category are descendants of Austrian citizens that were Jewish, and we discussed that category in a previous video. And today we're going to deal with a second category of Austrian residents. When we're dealing with the Austrian residents, it's important to note two main conditions. The first condition is that the relevant Austrian resident was born in the Great Austro-Hungarian territories, meaning the borders that existed before World War I. The borders of Austria were greater then, and they included parts that after World War I became Romania and Ukraine, and so on and so forth. Many people that lived in the greater Austrian borders, after the borders of Austria minimized into the borders they are today, moved into the new borders and never obtained Austrian citizenship. Those residents of Austria that never obtained Austrian citizenship and were born in the Greater Austro-Hungarian territories and that left Austria after 1933, the presumption is that they left because of fear to Nazi persecution. It's important to note that they also had to leave after January 1933. Unlike citizens, they could have left also before January 1933, as long as they still remained citizens after January 1933, because the presumption is that they didn't want to return to a Nazi-influenced Austria. But if you are only a resident of Austria, then your right of returning did not exist like it existed for a citizen. And therefore, for residents of Austria, we're dealing with two conditions. They had to be born in the Greater Austro-Hungarian territories, and they had to leave Austria, the current borders of Austria, not the greater ones, after January 1933. I hope that this information was helpful. If you are interested in this option, our office assists with archival researches, and we establish eligibility through archival researches, and we try to find evidence to prove center of life in Austria before January 1933 and after. If you're interested in this service, you can feel free to contact us and to ask us any question you might have, and we'll be happy to be of assistance. Thank you very much for your time.